The Islenos to me are some of the most strongest people mentally and physically. After doing my research on the Canaries, it automatically made me think of my ancestors. It's not quite the same story, but both stories have small similarities. My name is Marcus Solomon, and I'm going to share with you the life of Islenos before they step foot into the New World, which today is the United States of America. Also known as the Canary Islanders, the Islenos were of the Ganchetos ethnicity near the coast of West Africa. They weren't at all a rich civilization. In fact, most Canaries were poor farmers that worked in sugarcane fields and grew crops such as tomatoes, corn, potatoes, and produced wine. For an exchange of labor, they were given land. Speaking a distinctively Spanish Canario language, exporting and trading with the New World was big for the Canaries. The islanders' culture in 1483 was becoming limited. This was because Spain had colonized the Canary Islands, which put the islands under Spanish control. Because of the colonization, it limited the islanders from trading. This led some Canaries to turn into fishermen and sailors. They didn't like the way Spain ran things. Eventually, the Islenos secretly made their own agenda where they influenced transatlantic trades. They had ships that sailed to the Americas without Spain officials knowing about it. The Caribbean sugar industry took over. This brought an economic decline of Canary Islands. From then on, the Canaries focused on winemaking. Once the peninsular winemaking overshadowed the Canaries' production, the islanders turned to harvesting orchilla and conchinilla. Orchilla is made from lichen, basically a fungi, and conchinilla is made from an insect that infests cacti, which is pretty nasty to me, just an opinion. Once the Islenos figured that they could not compete with the Spanish Americans, they then turned to immigration. San Bernardo, Venezuela, Barataria, and Galvez Town were the four new settlements for the islanders. Speaking Habla Canaria, the Islenos communicated well with each other and followed through on their plan to migrate to the New World. In the beginning, I stated that the islanders reminded me of my African ancestors. This is because my ancestors boarded on ships only with the illusion that they were coming to the New World for a better life. And like the Canary Islanders, they left their homes and tribes to pursue a better way of living. Even though the stories are different, both my African ancestors and the Canary Islanders took a chance on faith for their loved ones in an attempt to see better days. In 1778, many ships embarked to the New World, with 2,736 Canarians, Galicians, Austrians, and Catalan people of Spain for the better life. Not all made it to the new settlements. Some Canaries jumped ship, and some just eventually died. But at least 1,000 Canaries made it to the new settlements.
The Canary Islands are a Spanish archipelago located off the northwest coast of mainland Africa. It lies between Morocco and Western Sahara. The Canary Islands were a way station for Spanish ships sailing to the Americas because of winds from the northeast. Canary Islanders participated in settlement and development of Spanish America. Spain colonized the Canary Islands in 1483. When Columbus voyaged to the New World, the islands were already under the control of the Spanish. The original inhabitants of the Canary Islands were the Ganches. These people migrated to the Canary Islands around 1000 BC, or possibly even earlier. Traces of their culture is still found within Canarian customs and traditions, but the Ganches do not exist as a distinct ethnicity anymore. The first account of a European landing in the Canary Islands comes in the late 13th or early century. when a captain by the name of Lanzarote came across the island. This is why one of the islands is named Lanzarote, after him. It is said that the Europeans came to the islands in hopes of discovering the river of gold route for the legendary African gold trade. They also used the ocean current, called the Canary Stream, as a powerful aid in crossing the ocean to reach America. Another reason for the Islenos moving to America was for the resources. The lack of internationally traded white table wine also drove a lot of families to the Americas. There was also talk of the islands being overpopulated, so the Spanish crown decided that for each ton of cargo that a Spanish colony of America sent to Spain, they would send 5 Canary families. They settled in Louisiana and Texas, but then they were known as parts of the Spanish Empire. In 1484, Europeans introduced disease to the islands and it spread like wildfire. Spanish generals with thousands of troops invaded the islands, killing many Guanches or capturing them to sell as slaves. The last of them disappeared into slavery, married Spanish conquerors, or died of disease.
Hey everybody, this is Marcus Smith, and I am member 3 in my group, and I'm going to discuss today the culture of the Islenos after their arrival in the United States. The Islenos, also known as the Canarians, came to the United States in 1492 into the early 1980s. They came to find better jobs, escape poverty, and some were forced to move. The families were separated into 3 different states: Florida, Louisiana, and Texas. 16 families were sent to San Antonio, Texas in 1731. 154 families were sent to Florida in between 1757 and 1759. Between 1778 and 1783, 2,100 Canarians arrived in Louisiana. There in Louisiana, the Islenos developed into 4 communities: St. Bernard, Valenzuela, Barataria, and Galvez. The Islenos were mixed in with the Hispanic and Latinos, where they spoke Spanish, English, the Nahuatl dialect, and French in these 4 communities. Even though they're amongst their own, their languages were different, their taste of food was the same. They are very proud of their food and the Canarian culture. They are known for their seafood dishes like grilled limpets, which are small sea snails that cling tightly to rocks. When these limpets are served, they come with a dash of lemon juice and a spicy green sauce called mojo sauce. Mojo sauce can be red, orange, or green, depending on their spiciness and the ingredients that are used. It is mostly used on potatoes and has influenced barbecue sauces in the United States, mostly in the Deep South, in states such as Florida and Louisiana. Another Canarian dish that is popular here in the United States is ropa vieja, which is served with chicken and beef mixed with potatoes. The Islenos have been able to keep their culture alive in Louisiana and San Antonio, but not that much in Florida. The reason for this is because most of the Canarian settlers that stayed in Florida moved away due to Florida being sold to Great Britain in 1763. As of today, the modern-day Islenos have equal education opportunities as a natural-born U.S. citizen. In San Antonio and Louisiana, the Canarians kept their tradition the same by expressing it by dances, songs, and poems. There are a variety of songs that express their culture. Some examples of these songs are Canarian decimas, romances, and pan-Hispanic songs. These songs feature events to history and have some satire and humor in them. The way that poems express their culture is through Hispanic ballads. Dance is shown in their culture through folk dances and festivals. These festivals are held in St. Bernard, and the first festival begins in March, and the last one ends in December. And these are the many festivals that are held in the United States each year.
The Ilocos are not an unusual group of people. They would be considered unique. The only reason being is because they are the only ones to still embrace the ancient Spanish culture. For a while they lived peaceful and anonymous in existence. The Ilocos were a small secluded group of people, but that all changed in the 20th century when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. They were forced out of hiding, and today they are still striving to be known. While living in Louisiana, the Ilocos never strayed from their culture. Their lives revolved mainly around family and the Roman Catholic Church. Typically, 3 or 4 generations of Ilocos families lived together along farms. They introduced cattle ranching to the other settlers along the land. The household was dominated by the eldest family member. The Ilocos would celebrate religious feast days with great ceremony, followed by dancing and large amounts of food. The food they typically prepared the most was seafood because they lived along the outer skirt of Louisiana. An important cultural tradition to them would be Decima. It's a traditional folk ballad. Originally, it was a night held to honor senior citizens of Ilocos descendants living in the easternmost villages of St. Bernard. They sing it at every celebration they have. It's always spoken in ancient Spanish, never any other language. Just like everyone in this world, the Ilocos wanted to be heard. They spoke the most common language when it came to politics, environmental concerns, and leisure activities. They did not want to feel like they were the last to evolve in the city of New Orleans. The Ilocos did not abandon their native language, which is an archaic form of Spanish. They just simply changed their language in order to be heard. The Ilocos interacted with different ethnic groups, but their roots continue to stay strong. Almost 2/3 or more can trace their origins in part or to the Canary Islands. Ilocos Americans are considered to be European politically because that is who they were around mostly. North African geographically because of how close the Canary Islands are to the country of Africa. Hispanic and Latino linguistically because that is the language they spoke. The descendants of the Ilocos are striving to keep their culture alive. Their traditional lifestyle cannot be saved, but the food, language, and songs could be salvaged. They continue to preserve their culture by having festivals every year. A year has never been missed. Approximately 500 to 1,000 people are in attendance at these festivities. They are welcoming to teach anyone of their culture. Some Ilocos continue to live like their ancestors, but because of the technology and the advancing of the world, some of their culture has begun to change.